agenda. So the Aldermanic Affairs Committee of the Board of Alders will meet on Tuesday, September 29, 2020 at 6 p.m. via video conference at https dot bit.ly/3ILVA3I and by phone at 646-558-8656, webinar ID number 951-65-6352 to hear and act on the following items for required password content public testimony at newhavenct.gov. The new order of the New Haven Board of Alders approving the appointment of Michael Lawler to the Board of Police Commissioners. Appointment of Rebecca Corbett to the Affordable Housing Commission. Order of the New Haven Board of Alders approving the appointment of Elias Estebac to the Affordable Housing Commission. Order of the New Haven Board of Alders approving the appointment of Jamie McField Myers to the Affordable Housing Commission. For order, Honorable Rosa Ferraro Santana, Chair, attest Honorable Michael Smart, City Clerk. These items are on file and available in the Office of City Clerk, room 202 at 200 Orange Street, New Haven, Connecticut, 06510. For accessibility related accommodations, please call 203-946-7833B or 203-946-8582 TTY/TDD. Public comment testimony may also be submitted via email to publictestimony@newhavenct.gov before 2 p.m. on the day of the meeting. If you wish to present testimony at the meeting, you must register in advance at https://bit.ly/3ILV83I or by calling 203-946-7934 before 2 p.m. on the day of the meeting. Public can view the meeting at https://bit.ly/3ILV83I or listen by phone at 646-558-8656, webinar ID 951-6545-6352. For the required password, contact Public Testimony, newhavenct.gov. And there you have it this evening. I would like my colleagues who are on the Aldermanic Affairs Committee to announce themselves and tell them your ward numbers, please.
Alder Evelyn Rodriguez, Ward 4.
Go ahead. Did everyone speak?
Alder Eli Sabin, Ward 1.
Okay, thank you. And I also want to acknowledge that there are a few other colleagues who are on as well. We have Richard Furlow, who's our majority leader, Alder Sal DiColo, who's also in attendance, Gerald Antunes, who's also in attendance, and I note that Alder Jill Marks has also joined the committee. So now we have a quorum. Thank you. And if anyone else pops up, please let me know. The first order is Michael Lawler. Is he on the phone?
Madam Chairman, may I give a point of order for you, please?
Yes.
If you would read the items also that were given leave to withdraw, all items on the agenda should be read, and then you can just give those items to leave to withdraw.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
In addition to the items, we have order of the New Haven Board of Alders approving appointment of Zinay Malik to the Affordable Housing Commission, an order of the New Haven Board of Alders approving the appointment of Lisa McKnight to the Affordable Housing Commission, and these two appointments will be withdrawn. Thank you. At their request. Is Michael Lawler in attendance?
I'm here.
Are you there? Can we
I'm
see
here.
you?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we need to see you.
My camera's on. I think you should be able to see it. I can see myself, so.
Yeah,
You
we
need
can
to
see
point
you.
the camera the other way.
We can see him.
You can see him? I can't.
Scroll over.
Alder Delphine Clyburn has also joined us. Thank you, Alder Clyburn.
Well, he's on the screen. So
Can anyone else
He's
see
right.
him?
I can see
Oh.
him.
I don't see him.
Maybe if I talk, it's easier to see.
Oh, there you are.
Up
I
there.
see you now.
Okay.
Okay, you're being appointed to the Office of Police Commission. And I'd first like you to state your name and address for the record.
Sure. My name is Mike Lawler. I live at 95 Neeland Road
And where is that?
in New Haven.
Okay, well, you have to say it, so
I'm
that it
sorry.
goes on the record.
Okay, got it.
Okay, some of us don't know where Nealon Road is. You're being appointed to the commission, the police commission. And what is driving you? I see you have extensive history and a lot of police activities that you've done before in the past. So I would like to get your feel as to why you want to join the police commission.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to all your colleagues for allowing me to appear tonight. If you can tell by looking at my resume, it's pretty clear. Criminal justice reform has been my passion for my entire professional life. And my entire life, I've lived here in the New Haven area, the last 10 years in the city of New Haven. Before that, I lived in East Haven for most of my life, but in my younger years, I lived on Avon Street in East Rock with my mother, and she grew up there on Avon Street. My father grew up on Grafton Street in Fairhaven, and I've been involved in New Haven events and activities for as long as I can remember. But what's clear now today is that the real action in criminal justice reform is going to take place at the local level. Local police departments are going to have to deal with all of the challenges that have been thrust their way. And it would be an extraordinary opportunity and an honor for me to be a part of it. You know, I've been involved with the New Haven Police Department for many, many years and community activities in New Haven for many, many years. And I'm actually quite proud. You know, I've had the opportunity to speak around the country on this topic, and I'm always able to say that the New Haven Police Department is one of the more progressive and advanced police departments in the nation. There's still a lot more that needs to be done, but it's just a great place to test out some of these proposals that we see emerging around the country. So it's a great opportunity. I'm happy to do it. I'm honored that the mayor reached out to me and asked me to participate.
Thank you. Alder Yvette Hamilton, do you have any questions? Yvette, are you there?
I think the alder
Okay.
is muted is the problem.
Alder Rodriguez,
It's a pleasure meeting you. Thank
Same.
you for your interest in being in participating in the police commission. And my question is, thank you, by the way, Chair. My question is in reference to the police working with the residents in this time in New Haven, where there's just so much happening. How do you feel that you could contribute to helping make a better partnership between the police and the residents?
Well, thanks. That's a great question. You know, that partnership that you've just mentioned is so crucial to accomplish all the goals of the police department and of city government in general, right? I mean, if you don't have the trust of the people in the community, the confidence in the fairness of the police, then everything begins to break down. And at the end of the day, you end up with more crime. I mean, you had Professor Mears, who's now a member of the commission who I've known for many years, testifying before you a month or two ago. And her whole life's work has been promoting this idea of police legitimacy, right? In other words, you have to be able to win the trust of people in the community in order to get anything accomplished. So to me, that's really priority number one. Some people refer to this as community policing, right? Which is sort of a catch-all term. But I think this starts right at the recruitment and the training process for police officers. I mean, the good news is New Haven has its own academy and has the ability to adopt some of these more state-of-the-art practices. I mean, a lot of this is prescribed by the state through post, but even the police officer standards and training, they impose the requirements for training of new police officers. But that's in a state of transition too. The bill that Senator Winfield put through with the state capitol just a month or so ago has required post to completely transform itself starting on January 1st. And I think with that is going to come a lot of opportunities to revamp the training process here in New Haven and throughout the state. Plus, you know, where I teach at the University of New Haven, I've been teaching there since 1995, and I teach in the criminal justice department. And one of the projects we've been very involved with recently is working with, including the New Haven Police Department, but local police departments to help with the recruitment, especially of young people of color, to come into law enforcement. And ideally, our university, the University of New Haven, we've been working with Gateway Community College to convince young people that they should consider a career in law enforcement. And I know, especially for African Americans, in this day and age, I think many people are reluctant to go into law enforcement because of the sort of bad reputation that the profession has acquired especially in the last few months. And so it's a challenge to convince people that they actually can participate and make a difference. And, you know, I know from firsthand experience that good cops are the best thing in the world, but bad cops are the worst. And to make sure that we can recruit qualified people, give them the right kind of training, continue the practice that I know has been a hallmark of New Haven's new police cadets and recruits. You know, they're required to walk a beat for, I think it's the first 6 months on the job. I mean, before they get off into any kind of specialization to really be part of the community. And I know the academy has the cadets out in the community even before they're sworn in as police officers. These kinds of requirements are so important to build that trust. And, you know, I've seen firsthand, as I said, how that can work. And I've also seen firsthand how that can break down. And unfortunately, some of the other cities in our state have not had the kind of experiences that we've had in terms of getting good results. There's a lot more we can do, but that would be my priority, to work with the chief, to work with the other members of the commission, and do something that I think is, you know, in a way, I think being on the police commission is kind of like being a legislator, but with a very narrow focus, because part of the job is to enact and help formulate good policies and evaluate those policies. But the other part is to bring community feedback to the board. You know, people complain all around the city about a variety of things they want the police to get involved with. And I think it would be my job to communicate those concerns to the chief and the senior command over there. So that's kind of the way I view the job. And I'm hopefully with your consent, I'll be able to get started sooner rather than later.
Thank you. Because, you know, we have the concerns, we have important matters like Black Lives Matters, we have the Civilian Review Board, we have police brutality, all of these things. Plus we have many residents concerned that the police is not going quickly to address their safety issues, the relationships between dispatchers and police officers and residents. So it's going to be very important for the next police commissioner to also be supportive with that board to get us going in the direction where we can have that community-based policing, that partnership. Thank you for the information you've shared, and thank you, Madam Chair.
You all said, Alder Rodriguez? Okay,
Yes, I am, Madam Chair. Thank you.
you're welcome. Alder Yvette Hamilton,
Yes, can you hear me, Alder Santana?
I can.
Okay, good evenings. I apologize, you couldn't hear me before. I do have a question or two for Mr. Lawler. May I go now? Okay. Good evening, sir. Mike, what do you see as some of the challenges that we faced in, Alder Rodriguez talked about community and policing and all the different issues. What do you see as some of the challenges, and how can we, work together to surmount these challenges, sir?
Well, at the moment, I think the biggest challenge in New Haven, the immediate challenge, the most serious challenge are the shootings that have been taking place, and unfortunately, it's not just happening in New Haven, it's happening all around the country. And no one quite knows why exactly this is happening. Maybe something to do with COVID, maybe something to do with the loss of confidence in policing that goes along with the Black Lives Matter movement. But whatever it is, it needs to be addressed. I mean, we've had, I know you've heard a lot about Project Longevity. I was involved with that from the very start with Professor Mears and others when I worked for Governor Malloy. And, that can work, right? It's a very impressive process. I think you heard from Professor Mears that it's worked much better in New Haven than it has in Hartford or Bridgeport. But a lot of this has to do with the community people who get involved. Stacy Spell, who runs it in New Haven, is an awesome guy. He's very charismatic. He's very committed. And, it's people like that who have the connections in the community with the clergy, with the parents of the young men and women who have been killed in this gunfire. I mean, it's really senseless. I've been to a bunch of the call-ins, the Project Longevity call-ins. And for those of you who haven't done so, I would encourage you to do it, because it's really impressive to see a combination of the law enforcement types, the prosecutors, the cops, and the community people, the real community people speaking their mind and telling these young men, it's almost all young men, that number one, if you want to take advantage of it, we will make resources available to you today to help you get off of this trajectory, which could result in your own death or potentially incarceration. On the other hand, we talk about the importance of the law enforcement role in when some of these groups are actually involved in shooting people, they're going to come down pretty hard on these guys. And so it's that carrot and the stick approach that's so effective. Apart from that immediate thing, I mean, you've asked about concerns, another big concern is going to be the process of implementing these reforms that we've just seen enacted at the Capitol. I'm 100%, I was up there for a long time as a legislator myself. I'm 100% confident that when the session begins in the spring, there's going to be a whole new round of reforms that will be implemented. Hopefully, depending on the election results, you'll see the same thing on the national level. I think in both cases, it will bring a lot of resources in the way of federal and state grants. And those are going to be targeted to police departments, which have sort of shovel-ready projects. So if we can formulate a proposal of things we can do if the money is made available from the state or from the federal government, I think we'll be first in line to take advantage of that money. And the job I used to have working for Governor Malloy was basically being in charge of those kinds of grants. So I think I have a sense of how best to take advantage of it. I've had this conversation with Chief Reyes and some others on the police department. And I think we are better positioned than most to take advantage of these changes. And the final thing I want to say, and it is a very frustrating problem for New Haven, for its police department, and that is we hire these really high quality people to join the department, but after 2 or 3 years, they get picked off by another police department elsewhere in the state. They get paid more money. It's probably an easier job, less likely they're going to get shot or something like that. How can we, excuse me, how can we retain quality people that we are paying, we as taxpayers in New Haven are paying to train these men and women? And there are some proposals floating around that make it easier to retain these folks, but these are the kinds of things that I think I'd love to be a part of as a member of the commission.
And yeah, any member of this commission will be making policies and enforcing policies on our sworn officers. This is serious business, and in doing so, we want to be sure that you or whomever is appointed to these commissions are, it's about community and departments, you know, working together in partnership, but also holding certain values, what is important to our residents, you know what I mean, as high importance for me, because that's why I do what I do. So for any appointee, you know, I would hope that that individual hold those the residents as high importance in all decisions that are made, right, Mr. Lawyer?
Yeah, I think you've articulated the perfect standard, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you work for the people who live in your community. That's your job, right?
Yes.
And it's not just to arrest people. Your job is public safety, crime reduction, and a lot of crime reduction is more about prevention rather
Yes,
than
indeed.
just arresting people and putting them in prison. I mean, you know, I remember, I'm sure I'm a lot older than almost all of you. I can remember the late 1980s and the early 1990s where the whole point was just to arrest more people and put them in jail for longer on the theory that somehow that would decrease crime or eliminate drugs or something like that. That did not work, right? We know that now. And here in Connecticut, I think we've made extraordinary strides in reducing crime by adopting these best practices. And there's much more we can do. I still think we're picking the low-hanging fruit. And it's worth noting that just yesterday, the FBI announced the annual crime statistics for the nation for 2019 for last year. And it's worth noting that Connecticut last year had the second biggest reduction in reported violent crime of any state in the country, behind only New Hampshire. And we had the second biggest reduction in reported property crime, like burglaries and auto thefts, of any state in the country, behind only Idaho. And that's like the 7th year in a row that we've had this distinction of being right at the top and getting good outcomes. And there's so much more we can do. And I think many of you, I'm sure you know Representative Tony Walker, who is a very close friend of mine, and former Mayor Tony Harp. When they were Tony Walker's still in the legislature, but when Tony Harp was there as well, I worked together with them to enact what I think was the single most important piece of criminal justice reform in my career, which was the Raise the Age initiative in Connecticut, which raised the age of juvenile court jurisdiction from your 16th birthday up to your 18th birthday, like virtually the entirety of the rest of the country. But more importantly than that, it began the process of putting resources in the hands of teachers and school administrators and police officers and mental health professionals to deal with kids, most of whom have experienced this extraordinary trauma in their lives. I mean, if you know the community, you know these children, right? And I've been in every prison and jail, including the now closed juvenile correctional facility up in Middleton, you know, and you talk to these kids and they all have the same story. They never had a first chance. You know, they witnessed extraordinary violence among their friends and their communities. Some of them have been sexually assaulted. A lot of them are foster children. And from this, you learn that if we can figure out how to focus on these kids early on, the odds that they're going to end up in the criminal justice system go way, way, way down. And as it turns out, in our state, the number of young people getting arrested has just plummeted over the last decade. I mean, down like 70%, fewer 18, 19, 20-year-olds getting arrested. And it's also worth noting that the number of 18, 19, and 20-year-olds who are locked up in our prisons, not as juveniles, as adults, is down 80% compared to 10 years ago. So this is great progress. And I think this tells us that these reforms do work, can work. And the more we can convince everybody who works in the system, whether it's the prosecutors or the judges or the police or probation or parole, that focusing on these innovations pays real dividends in terms of reducing crime, then I think we'll see even more success. So I hope you can tell I'm pretty passionate about this stuff, and I'm looking forward.
I see that. Thank you. And I take it I don't have to ask you if you're going to be prepared and ready if appointed to be available, right?
I'm ready to roll. Trust me.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Chair Lady Santana. I'm all set.
Thank you. I would like to acknowledge Alder Roth has been on the call as well, and Alder Walker Myers is also on the call. So thank you so much for joining. Alder Marks, do you have any comments or questions this evening?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Laura, for sharing all of that. My thoughts are I was listening to some of the questions my colleagues had, and I was thinking you was giving some timelines about things that's happening, from the past. You rated Connecticut as, holding steady for the last 2 years. I'm thinking about now, like when you were saying about you don't know if it's COVID-19 responsible for the crime rate, rising. Personally, I believe it's part of it. So I'm wondering in your policies, what are your thoughts about like in some of these neighborhoods where there are a lot of black and brown people, when they are facing, disparities or whatever the trouble is, with um, the management, I'm sorry, with the substations, if there were more people that look like them, they can identify and feel more safer. What are your thoughts there, changing that scenario a little bit?
Listen, I totally agree that the more people we have from the community that work in our police department, the better. And I mentioned a little bit earlier, one of the projects I'm involved with at the University of New Haven is reaching out, and we've been working with Hill House High School, West Haven High School, to try and convince high school students to begin the process of a criminal justice career. It could be a gateway, it could be at our university, to take the kinds of courses that would get them prepared to be a police officer. And I'm not sure we finalized the agreement, but I believe we're going to be able to give some additional points to people who apply to the New Haven Police Department if they've completed some of these courses in high school and in college that go towards being a police officer. Because getting, as I said earlier, it's a challenge to convince people to be police officers today, especially young men and women of color, because I think if you lose the trust in the ability of policing in general to be fair to people, then a lot of people don't want to go into that line of work. And so one of my priorities is to convince people, like, you can make a difference, right? You could, if you come in as a patrol officer and you've got the passion and you've got the preparation and you're committed to your community, you can rise through the ranks pretty quickly, and you can make a huge difference. And so convincing people to take that up is so important, because I believe that when someone is walking into the police department, they should see an array of people that look just like the community they would see down on the green or in any, community center or high school in the city. I mean, this is so important to me. But it's a huge challenge, and it's going to take a lot of convincing and some resources and some incentives to get more people to come into policing.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I have one more thought. When I think about my ward, when you have police officers, they feel threatened or scared to, come up on scenes where they may feel that, they are scared about all of the chaos that's going on between the community and the police department. What are some of your thoughts of the policy? Because when a police officer tell me that they have to be careful how they, approach certain situations, I feel like, that's not what the people want to hear, especially taxpayers and people feel for their safety. The police should be able to feel strong and do their job regardless of, where they are going.
Yeah,
and that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's true. I mean, I talk to cops all the time. I talk to people in the community all the time. And, the big problem, the situation we find ourselves in now is that the police are afraid that they might get shot during an encounter. And the people in the community are afraid they're going to get shot by the police. And that kind of raises tension. And people are going to act quickly, unfortunately, and you see a lot of the bad outcomes that we've seen around the country. Fortunately, not a lot of that around here, but we have had some examples around here of that. So police need to be cautious for sure, but I think how they approach situations is so important, right? I mean, I think everybody's generally aware of the dilemma dealing with people with serious mental illness, right? I mean, police officers are not really all that well trained on dealing with a person who's got a serious mental illness. And, if there's a weapon involved, a knife or a threat or something along those lines, the police are inclined to use the tools that they've been issued, which are, handguns and tasers. And And that is a recipe for disaster frequently. And that's why I think it's such a brilliant proposal that I know, I assume many, perhaps most of you have endorsed, something that Chief Reyes and Mayor Elicker have talked about, and that is adding some specialists to the array of police officers who are not going to carry guns and badges and handcuffs, but are going to respond to 911 calls where it's clear that a specific response is necessary, whether it's mental illness or substance abuse or homelessness. I mean, these kinds of calls take up a big hunk of police responses. And in many cases, you know, there's no indication that there's danger involved. And so better trained specialists can deal with this. And as I try and explain this concept to people, you know, it's worth noting that back in the day, you know, fire departments had firefighters, and that was that. And then over time, it became clear that they needed to add a specialization, which we now call EMTs, emergency medical technicians. And that became a thing. At our university, we have a major now in being an EMT. And so EMTs are going to respond to a lot of situations rather than sending a fire engine, especially where it's a medical thing. And so to me, like the future of policing is going to be more like that, right? Whether these people are going to be working as part of the police department or will just be dispatched directly by 911 operators based on criteria that we can all work together on. This is the future, but you know, sending in someone to a high stress situation who's got a badge and a gun and a handcuff and trained to use force to take people into custody is not always the best idea. And getting that mix right is a big challenge. But like I say, I think a lot of the initiatives that are going to come from the state and federal level are going to be coupled with resources, meaning money, to do the kinds of training, to do the kinds of hiring, to do the kinds of specialization that I'm describing. And that's why I would love the opportunity of being a direct part of that.
Thank you, Mr. Laura. Madam President, I'm done.
Thank you, Alder Marks. Alder Delphine Clyburn, have any questions?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. A lot of the questions that I had in my mind, in my heart was asked, but I just have one. I would like to know, with all the work you have done, what difference do you see that we need to do, or what idea that you may have that you think they could tweak it, do a little different, or you think all the things that you have been involved with in this area is where we need to go?
Yeah, so a couple of things. I mentioned a few already, but let me add a few more to the list. A lot of states, this is about the training of police officers, right? Connecticut exclusively has a police academy, which in many ways is got a very sort of military style format, right? It's like a form of boot camp. I mean, there's an academic part where you learn about criminal law and stuff like that, but you know, you learn how to fire guns and drive cars quickly and take people into custody. But a lot of states have a slightly different approach. For example, up in Massachusetts, police academies have been integrated into some universities, so that it's like when you, like, I'm a lawyer, right? So in order to become a lawyer, I had to go to law school, and then I took an exam. And so for police officers in some states, they come out with a degree, let's say in criminal justice, and then you combine that with some sort of training on the things you really do need to know. In other words, firing guns and driving cars and stuff like that. So that it's not really sort of a 6-month military boot camp style experience. It's a little bit more of a diverse emphasis. And that seems to have worked very well elsewhere in the country. It just has never been done here in Connecticut. And I know there are those who are talking about evolving our training process for police officers in that way. And that's something that I think is sort of inevitable in a way, but I think it would be a great addition. I do think, you know, New Haven actually has done pretty well on a lot of the things that I think are important, which I would recommend elsewhere in the state. But let me just mention what an extraordinary job New Haven has done in reducing the number of suspensions and expulsions from schools, and reducing the number of police officers that are stationed in schools. we know there's plenty of data on this. You just get bad outcomes. That if you take young kids who are acting out in school and just suspend them or expel them, you're really increasing the chances that kid's going to end up in prison down the road. It's not to say just to the teachers, just stop doing it. You have to provide resources. You have to have alternatives to deal with kids who are usually dealing with some serious issues at home, and that's why they're acting out at school. And so New Haven's done a pretty good job of reducing suspensions and expulsions, but I think we can do better. And that has a lot to do with working together with other parts of the system. So like, I've always been a big advocate that if you just look at corrections as corrections and policing as policing and courts as courts, you're missing a big part of the puzzle here, that it is one big system. A lot of the same people are cycling through different parts of the system. They don't get enough attention. And so coordinating efforts to deal with homelessness, mental illness, substance abuse, schooling, kids in schools and stuff like that. If you can get everybody on the same page with the same goal, I think you get a lot better outcomes. And we've got an overabundance of resources in New Haven that we can take advantage of. My husband, for example, works at the Yale Child Study Center and deals with kids who are, suicidal. And Yale Child Study Center does an extraordinary job and working with the community in many ways. And we have so many resources because of Yale. And hopefully my university, University of New Haven. I mean, there's so much we have to work with, and getting people on the same page with a goal towards reducing crime and building confidence in the criminal justice system generally, and the police in particular. I mean, that's the recipe for success.
Mhm. Well, I do thank you. And I love that we're now really going to concentrate on people that have mental illnesses. And I also, like in your talk, you are for all people, no matter, and you see the need that should be there for Black and brown people. I like that you're a person who see all as, human and to be loved. So I like that. So I thank you for everything that you said tonight. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. You're very kind to say those things. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Alder Saban.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for being here, Mr. Lawler. You've covered a lot of ground already, and I thank my colleagues for their excellent questions. I have one question, which is, in addition to New Haven police officers who wear the badge in our city, we also have Yale police officers who are sworn officers and serve at the pleasure of city residents, have our public authority through the city. But currently, under the memorandum of understanding that was signed in the 90s, Yale police officers are not under the jurisdiction of the Board of Police Commissioners, and it's sort of unclear to me, at least, whether they are under the jurisdiction of the Civilian Review Board. And I was wondering if you could talk about your thoughts on that and whether you think something needs to change in that regard.
Yeah, well, I mean, some changes here would be good, in my opinion. It's worth noting that, as I said, I teach at the University of New Haven. The University of New Haven Police Department is actually a subsidiary of the West Haven Police Department. Our police officers have real law enforcement powers, but at the end of the day, it's the city of West Haven that is in charge. I feel the same way about New Haven. The Board of Police Commissioners is the civilian oversight for a police department and for policing powers in the city. The Yale police officers have the governmental authority to place people under arrest. I mean, police officers have extraordinary authority. If they order you to do something and you refuse to do it, that in and of itself is a crime. And so regulating that has, it's one of the courses I teach is on criminal procedure, search and seizure, the Constitution. And the powers that police have are extraordinary. And as I tell my students, if a police officer orders you to stop and calls you by the wrong name, and he's got the wrong person, you have an obligation to stop, even if you know he's mistaken. And these powers are so extraordinary that they have to be subject to civilian oversight. And Like, I'm not exactly sure the extent to which the New Haven Board of Police Commissioners has any oversight at all over this, but I think they should have the maximum because at the end of the day, they're policing within the city of New Haven, and they should be held to the same exact standard. You know, back when I worked for Governor Malloy, there was an issue that came up where the Yale University took the position that because they were a private university, they were not subject to the state's freedom of information laws. However, their police officers are government officials, and they're, at the end of the day, they're exercising state government powers. And the good news is, when all was said and done, Yale University lost that argument, and now the police reports and the investigative issues and the personnel files of the Yale PD are just as available as they would be for any other police department, which I think is appropriate. I mean, there's some universities that have private police departments, Quinnipiac, for example. I mean, if that's the way they want to go, that's fine, but those officers do not have arrest powers. They have to call the real police if they want something to happen. So these are extraordinary powers. They should be subject to significant civilian oversight. I have no idea how Yale does the oversight, but I'm hoping to be a part of that on the New Haven Board of Police Commissioners.
Thank you for those thoughts. I was wondering, would you support opening up that memorandum of understanding from the 90s? I think it was signed in 1994.
Yeah, I would have no problem with it. I think at the end of the day, that's a decision that you as the Board of Alders and the mayor have a lot of input into as well. You know, you guys set the rules, and I will follow the rules that you establish. But, you know, for reasons I think I just kind of made very clear, I think this is really important to get this right. We've had some recent examples of Yale police officers behaving badly, right? There was that shooting up in Newhallville. And, you know, these are the kinds of things that should be avoided, because as we've seen elsewhere in the country, if you don't keep your eye on the ball, things can go really bad really quickly. And I think in this day and age, we know enough to know how important it is to exercise appropriate control over law enforcement. I mean, not to interfere with the way they do their duty, but to have the right training, the right procedures, the right types of supervision, and very importantly, the right kinds of data reporting. We need to see what's happening as policymakers. You need to see it. The Board of Police Commissioners needs to see it. The mayor needs to see it, and the community needs to see it, so that you can make decisions on when to make changes. And so I guess that's a long answer to your question. I'll keep it short and say yes.
Excellent. My understanding is that the Board of Police Commissioners and the mayor have the power to renegotiate that memorandum of understanding. So It would be great to see it happen. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Alder Hurd, do you have any questions or comments this evening?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I do apologize for being late to this evening's committee. Thank you, Mr. Lawler, for being with us. I am happy that you are here with us on today. I've heard a lot of good things about you. Accountability. I'm a faith leader, and I have to have accountability to the congregation that I oversee, to the constituents that that vote for me in the 3rd Ward, which is that diverse community. Your take would be very interesting to me if you could give me a little bit of your thoughts on the police accountability law.
Well, I think, first of all, thank you. I'm glad at least some people had some favorable things to say about me, but I don't think I'm betraying any secrets to say that I had extensive discussions with Senator Winfield and Senator Looney as that bill was being discussed. You know, I wasn't directly involved, but I had the opportunity to provide some input, as well as to other members of the legislature. I think it is a good first step, right? I think there's more that needs to be done. It appears there is a kink or two that needs to be ironed out in some parts of the bill, which is fine. But I really think, you know, first of all, that bill came with no money attached to it, for starters. Let's just start with that. And many of the requirements that it imposes do require some money to back them up. So I'm have every expectation that after the elections next month or in November, when the legislature comes back into session, this whole topic of police accountability will be front and center for the legislature. And I do believe they will be putting some money where their mouths have been. More importantly, on the federal level, depending on how the election turns out, of course, but I mean, I'm cheering for Vice President Biden, and I think that should he be successful, that there will be significant resources flowing down to the state and local level in the way of grants to enact some of these policies. And there's going to be some policy changes at the federal level. I mean, people have heard way too much about this qualified immunity thing. And it is, I'm a lawyer and I think I understand this stuff. It's still very complicated and confusing and frustrating to try and explain it to people. But it does create its own set of problems. And I think that's going to be changed on the federal level. So as these reforms take place, I think we have to be prepared to sort of incorporate them into our local practices. And so to me, like the next 2 or 3 years will be spent trying to get this right. And I know how much passion, especially Senator Winfield has on this topic. And I'm, it would be an honor to work with him as a member of the commission as well, to try and speak up for the needs of our city.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. I would also like to read a letter into this meeting. I am pleased to offer my support for the nomination of Mr. Michael Lawler to the Police Commission. He has a lifetime of experience, service, and expertise in policing. These traits make him uniquely qualified to join the board of the police commissioners. In addition, he has been a tremendous resident and neighbor. He truly cares about our community and is engaged and active resident. We are fortunate to have him in our city and are even luckier that he is willing to give his time and talent to local service. Thank you for consideration of my support for Mr. Lawler, and I look forward to seeing what contributions he can make to this world. Alder South Dakota. And I also have a question for you. What are your views on polygraph and psychological testings that are now being done?
Well, first, if you don't mind, can I just say thank you to Alder DeCola?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
I've been living in here on the, well, at least in the annex part for 7 years. And having been a former legislator myself, you can tell the ones that are really committed to the community. And Sal is omnipresent over here. He's a role model. And I'm sure all of you are as well. I mean, you're right on the front lines, but Sal is the best. And, in any event, put that aside. In terms of polygraphing has always been part of the recruitment training process for police officers. It's important, right? I've been polygraphed. It is, I wouldn't say it's the most accurate way of getting information. It's a very intimidating process, but it's important because you need to sort of make sure people are not hiding information that might otherwise be disclosed. Mm-hmm. Your other question was polygraphs?
The psychological test.
Psychological, yeah. So under the new legislation, psychological screening is going to be a much more significant factor in both the recruitment and retention of police officers. And this is important. And this isn't, it's not just about identifying who the bad police officers are. It's about helping police officers deal with the extraordinary stress that many of them are under. I mean, in recent years, suicides among police has really skyrocketed substantially. And there's a lot of police are experiencing substance abuse and having domestic issues with their spouses and stuff like that. And I think in part because an unintentional consequence of a lot of the policy decisions that have been made, put police officers right in the middle of these unbelievably horrible, complicated circumstances. And in many cases, they don't have the resources or the training to deal with them. So I think with that, end up with a lot of stress. And so mental health screening, ongoing services, a destigmatization of mental illness is very important here, because people can get treatment, and we need to make sure there's an opportunity for police officers, just like everybody else, to get the help they need to get back into gear. And so it also turns out, however, that there are a fair number of police officers who probably have no business carrying a gun and wearing a badge. That's the bad news. And we've seen some examples of that in recent months around the country. And it is important to identify who these people are and deal with them appropriately. Get them the help if the help is going to be successful. But, if that's not the case, we need to know about it. And I'm sure all of you are aware of this, but, at the end of the day, if something goes wrong, it's the city and the taxpayers who pay the bill. And we just saw in Louisville, in the aftermath of Breonna Taylor's homicide, the settlement just with her family was $12 million. And that does not include the neighbors who had the bullets come into their apartment. And it does not include her companion, Mr. Walker, who was arrested that night and then let go a few weeks later, when he clearly was exercising his right to defend himself with a registered handgun as the police officers came through the door. So, I mean, these bills get paid not by the individual officers, but by the city. And there's a financial incentive for the city to get it right. And training and oversight and evaluation and data gathering are so important to doing that. And so I'm very committed to making sure we get that right.
Thank you. I have another question. What is your plan to address the fact that police authorized strength is reduced to 403 members?
So I don't know the exact numbers, but over time, I think, as you all know, there's a big difference between the number of authorized positions and the number of filled positions. And my understanding is recently the budget decisions have eliminated some authorized positions that were not filled, right? Mm-hmm. I forget the number, but 10, 15 years ago, the New Haven Police Department reached this high point in terms of number of officers. Mm-hmm. And it's lower now, but it's not historically low. But we see the same thing going on everywhere with the state police and other communities. So the question is, what is the right number of sworn police officers that we need to carry out the responsibilities of the police department? I mean, I don't know the answer to that question right now, but I do know some of these other initiatives that are being explored, finding people who are specialists, essentially, can do the jobs that are currently being done by sworn police officers, mm-hmm. collecting hazardous duty retirement, mm-hmm. Which you don't need a sworn police officer to do. I mean, I'll just give you some examples from elsewhere in the country. A lot of states, the tradition has been that crime scene investigators are civilians, right? Mm-hmm. You don't need to have a badge and a gun to go to a crime scene and look for DNA evidence and take the measurements of automobile accidents and things along those lines. To work in the evidence room, you don't need to be a sworn officer. You could be a civilian who's specially trained to do that. Mm-hmm. I mean, whether some of those things are worth exploring so that we can free up the sworn trained police officers to do that job, as opposed to sitting behind a desk in a paperwork job. I mean, these are the kinds of things that need to be explored, especially when we're dealing with the fiscal issues we're dealing with right now. I mean, and my sense is you're going to see this all around the country, this movement towards limiting sworn police officers to the jobs they're trained to do.
Thank you. And my last question to you is, in the past, and I know that my colleague, Alder Yvette Hamilton, touched on the fact that having police officers that live in the community in which you live, that can service the community in which you live, is a big asset. And I've advocated for this for 20 years. And I was always shot down because they they don't want police officers have to live in the city in order to qualify to do that. I understand the unions get involved and there's a lot of hassle to go around that. But as a appointment to the police commission, I'm hoping that you will help and engage members who live in the city of New Haven, and whatever points or whatever they receive, because they are a resident, that they get qualified. I think it's so important, and I know keeping the officers is another thing. And so we've got a lot happening all at the same time, but I think if everyone pulls their weight, and I think you've got now a good team on the police commission with yourself and the last appointment that we made. And Dawson, who's been an alderman and is now the chair of police commission, he's been around forever. And so I think there's a couple of others that will, with all of you working together, I believe that the new police commission can make some great changes and not just do the status quo as we have right now, and which has been done for years. So I think that opportunities are open, and we could make some great insights into the future of New Haven with the police officers and accountability and with the civilian review board. And I think that all working together, we can accomplish that. Slow and easy steps.
I agree 100%. That's what I'm committed to.
Thank you. Any further questions from the committee? Any further questions? Thank you, Mr. Lawler, for your attendance this evening, and it was a pleasure understanding your passion and your enthusiasm for wanting to serve on this commission. We appreciate the fact that you're willing to do so.
Well, thanks to all of you. Is it necessary for me to stay on here in case any questions come up down the road, or?
No, you can log off. You can listen to the others' testimony, because we won't make a decision until after we convene into a committee, after we've heard all public testimony. But you can certainly stay on the call.
I'd love to. I just have
whatever you'd like to do.
the NAACP chapter at our university is having a meeting starting shortly to talk about the Breonna Taylor thing, and they've invited me to participate. So I want to get to that as well. So but I don't want to leave if there might be more questions or something.
No, I don't believe so. And my person who runs the committee, Misty Maza, who's in the office, she will contact you and let you know of the decision of our meeting this evening.
Great.
But
Well,
I
thank you again to
don't
all
think
of you.
that there will be any problems. Everyone seems to be overly enthusiastic about you joining.
I hope to live up to your expectations, but thank you very
Okay.
much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much. Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you.
The next person is Rebecca Corbett. Is she available? Rebecca Corbett? Al or Misty, if she's unavailable, we can go on with Elias Estabrook. Mr. Url, do we have someone calling in?
I'm trying to determine that now if anyone on the phone is one of the appointees. Currently, it does not look like any of the appointees or any of the other additional appointees are joining us this evening.
Okay, they were informed that they needed to join, correct?
Yes.
Okay, we'll give it another few minutes. Jamie McFeel Myers, is he on the call?
Hello.
Hi. Who is this?
Hi, that was Serena, Chair, Madam Chair. Good evening.
Okay. Good evening, how are you?
I'm good, I'm good.
Good, thank you.
Madam Chair, with respect to Ms. Zini Malik and Lisa McKnight, they were both are unable to serve at this time on the commission. And I just wanted to report that based on our.
Thank you very much. Do you know if it was communicated to Elias and to Jamie and Rebecca to call in this evening, because they're not on the call?
Right. I'm not sure of, I think they were notified. I'm not sure why they're not on the call.
Okay. What does the committee want to do? Do we want to hold on for another 5 minutes to see if they call in, or 5-10 minutes, and then we'll call the meeting if no one appears? Or what would you like to do at this point? I'm asking the committee.
Well, to
Can
my
I speak on
understanding-
that?
Madam,
Yes.
Thank
Yes,
you, Madam
Alderman.
President. Thank you, Madam President. I was listening to the last three names you call. I know, I'm not aware of Jamie, if they knew of this appointment, if so, somehow, I don't know what's the mix up, but,
Yeah.
I
I'm
just
wondering.
talked with them and they wasn't clear about any of this and don't know about this.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Anyone else?
I would
Yes,
move.
Alder Saban.
I would move that we take a 10-minute recess, and we could maybe see if they're gonna show up.
Okay, if we can,
Second.
so thank you. The motion was moved and seconded. We will take a, motion carries to take a 10-minute recess, and we can see if maybe we can call any of these people and to see if we
Yes.
can get them to join.
absolutely.
Right. So
I
we
agree.
will reconvene at 7:20. Be sharp, 7:20.
I think I just froze all the hurt.
Uh-oh. Okay, it's now 7:20 and we will reconvene the meeting. Do we have an answer if those 3 individuals will be calling in? Okay, I see Elias Estabrook is on the call. Can we get a video? Hello, Elias.
Hi, Alder
Are
Santana.
you
How are you?
unmuted? Yes, you are. I
Yes,
can't
thank
hear
you.
you though.
Can you hear me better now?
Maybe you could turn your volume up a little bit,
Elias, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Give me one moment.
Elias, can you hear us? Well, we can't hear you.
Okay.
Do you have your speaker on?
Yes, I do. Can you hear me?
I can hear him,
Can you hear
Alder.
me at all?
Madam Chair, I can hear him.
I can hear him, Chair Lady Santana. I can hear him
I can't
also.
hear you either. Al, is there something wrong with the system? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
I can hear you.
Chair Santana, we can
Hello,
hear you.
Elias.
Yes, Chair. Can you hear me now?
It seems like she can't hear you, Elias.
Okay.
Chair Santana, can you hear him?
Vice Chair Hamilton, will you send her a text message?
Yeah. Misty, are you on the call?
Okay.
Chair
I will
Santana, can
begin
you
the
hear
meeting.
him?
I will open up the meeting and if Elias is on, I would like him to say his name and address for the record. I can't hear him, but maybe you guys can hear him.
Yes, we can.
I may have to log in again because for some reason I can't hear anything. So let me log in again.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Shall I proceed, Alder Furlow, or just wait for her to relog in?
That would be
Let me
good,
log
Vice
in
Chair.
again.
All right. Should we wait for Alder Santana?
I think it would be appropriate if you continued until she came on, Vice Chair Hamilton.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Elias Estabrook. I'm Vice Chair Hamilton. First of all, can you give us your name and address for the record, sir?
Sure. And I apologize for my tardiness. Elias Estabrook. My address is 106 Newhall Street, New Haven, Connecticut.
Thank you. And you want to proceed by just giving us a little bit of why you are would like to serve on this commission?
Sure. My understanding is that this is for reappointment to the City Plan Commission. Is that correct, or am I incorrect?
Oh.
Incorrect. So I have not seen the agenda for this meeting, but
They are
so
considering you for all the Affordable Housing Commission.
Right.
Senor
understood.
Estabrook.
Okay, thank you. So I guess I'll refer to my experience on the City Plan Commission. I've been a commissioner since early 2017. And at that time, I've had the pleasure of serving with other residents of our city on the commission. to consider a number of issues, but including housing and the importance of having a strong plan for our city and considering how important goals of preserving and creating affordable housing are for our city and its future. So I think that, within that time, I've also had the opportunity to attend meetings of the Affordable Housing Task Force in 2018 when it was formed. And so I've, listened and observed and read information that's been shared through, our city government's process. Our city government's process of developing policies that will continue to make our city affordable for many people. So, that's some of my experience. I'm really passionate about continuing to serve our city and to consider, policies and to enforce what our city has committed to in terms of affordable housing goals as well. So, I feel that I'm well informed and I'm someone that can read and consider a lot of information given my experience on the City Plan Commission and also my experience in college researching and reading information. So thank you for this opportunity. And that's sort of an overview of why I'm interested in the Affordable Housing Commission.
Thank you so much. All right, at this time, I'm not even going to ask you any question because I know who you are. Alder Evelyn Rodriguez, do you have any questions for Mr. Elias Estabrook? Alder Evelyn?
Okay.
Alder
I have
Clyburn?
one question only.
Okay, go ahead, ma'am.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair,
Vice Chair.
Vice Chair.
Yes.
Thank you. The question that I have is in reference to residents that live in New Haven and all the dilapidated houses that we still have in New Haven. Have you thought of ways that could be supportive in making them landlords and owning their own homes, therefore making it affordable for them to have their own homes and do like a step up in their lives in reference to becoming homeowners?
Thank you, Alder Rodriguez. I think you're bringing up an important point. I think you're were you referring to current residents who are renting and the possibility of them becoming homeowners in our city?
Yes, or individuals that are working. Yes, definitely that are working, that can own a home, have an income, but yet do not own their own homes and they're paying mighty rents.
Right. I think it's a very important issue to consider, given that, about 2/3 of our city are renters, and, how do we increase the percentage of New Haven residents that own homes, and not just wish for it, but find policies that are going to financially assist people, make financial counseling more available to people, because I can say from my own experience of beginning to think about buying a home here in the city and hearing from other people, can be a very challenging process, and has many hurdles to it. So I think it's definitely something, Alder Rodriguez, that our city needs to continue to consider and to be able to find funding to support more residents to buy homes here in the city.
Thank you.
Are you all
And I
set?
just have one more question in reference to affordable housing, in reference to the relationship between tenants and owners in helping them keep the roof over their head. Have you thought about how that kind of communication can improve so that tenants don't lose their homes and homeowners have more responsible tenants?
I think it's a good question. I'll be honest that I haven't thought a lot about it, but I am thinking about it now. I think, especially in the time of the COVID pandemic, because both homeowners and renters have been financially affected if they've lost their work or their hours were reduced, and that has an effect of whether people get to keep their homes, whether they're renting or owning. And I think that it creates difficult situations where if the rent is coming due, and someone is a small landlord, right? They own maybe one home or just a few homes in New Haven. What do they do? Because they may care about the person, but their bills are coming due as well. So I think that aiding and supporting both renters and homeowners in the city is an important goal. And I think that the Affordable Housing Commission should be thinking about which agencies of our government can be directly supporting them, and what programs do we need to continue to fund, and maybe which new programs or initiatives do we need to explore, especially to help people right now under these pretty extraordinary conditions under COVID, and the economic impacts that it's having on a lot of people.
Thank you. And thank you, Madam Vice Chair. That is all I have at this time.
Thank you. Alder Delphine, are you with us still?
Yeah, I am with you. I was just thinking, my question would be about the landlords.
Go right ahead.
We have the, I call them deadbeat landlords who really don't care, who they're just after the money. Their places is really not affordable. I don't even know why they get a lot of our government, even be landlords in our cities. But what my colleague Alder Rodriguez said, I wish there was something in place where we could help even more our residents buy their homes, where they could get it at a great price. A lot of our vacant properties around, instead of these out of state, out of the country landlords, really making it bad for our homeowners. So any thoughts around that?
Thank you, Alder Clyburn. I think to your first point about large, landlord companies, basically, I know the board discussed that question in a workshop last year, and I got to attend and listen to some of the conversation between some of your colleagues on the board and some of the staff at LCI. Because LCI is charged right now with enforcing the, basically the health and safety standards of housing, while the Fair Rent Commission, considers certain cases between landlords and tenants. But I think that it is a really significant issue in our city, and I fear that looking at the recession 10, 11, 12 years ago and what impact it had on, a lot of people losing their homes and then these companies coming in to buy even more property. I think that we really need to actively be looking at, really actively looking at the issue and considering how we can increase, the funding and the support that LCI gets to enforce the housing code so that residents are safe and are not mistreated by some of these large landlords. To your other point, I think it's a more complicated question in terms of, with all the vacant land, how can the city promote and maybe itself be active in making sure that vacant land gets put to good use and is actually, good standard housing for residents rather than, like you're saying, being dilapidated or not well maintained by some of these large landlords.
Mhm.
So I don't know the answer, but I'm on the commission looking forward to considering all the potential solutions.
Mhm. Thank you.
Are
Thank
you all
you,
set, Alder Craig?
Madam Vice Chair.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Alder Marks, do you have any questions for Mr. Elias Estabrook?
Thank you, Vice Chair. I know Elias very well. I would wait till we deliberate, but I'm just thinking on terms of when the COVID-19 is over. There are a lot of people in the system where they started the process of evicting people. And now that people are out of work and they no longer have a job, like, what are your thoughts on when that time comes back around? What can you do to help the people that needs to keep shelter over their head?
I think it's a really good question. I think that the state has an important power there. So I think that we can, as a commission, advocate to but also our state delegation to be advocating on behalf of New Haven, city of New Haven residents that may be affected by eviction. Because to me, the state is the body that can provide relief to those people and also put in place the policies to stop evictions from happening, putting a moratorium on evictions the way they have for during this year so far, to stop people from going through the horrible process of actually getting evicted from their home. I think that in the city we also have programs to assist people to prevent foreclosures if they're homeowners. And I think I have a little bit of knowledge of it from working at neighborhood housing services because they provided a lot of financial counseling to help people after the last economic recession try to keep their homes or kind of smoothly transition out of that home. So those are some ideas I have. I think that both our city but also the state have to play a role in that, just because the state has more of the resources and can also enforce those policies.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Elias. Thank you, Vice Chair.
All righty. Thank you, ma'am. Alder Hurt, do you have questions for Mr. Elias Estabrook?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. And I just have one question for Mr. Elias Estabrook, and I know him very well as well as my other colleague, Alder Marks. And he probably answered this, but given the I don't even know, the atmosphere of the city and its neighborhoods of needs. A lot of my constituents are facing some housing issues. And I know that a lot more in the city. And I don't want to just single out my constituents, but it's inevitable right now. Going forward, how, with you being on the commission, how will you address these issues? And I know it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Your personal. I don't want to hear what you think on a personal level. How would you address these issues?
Thank you, Alder Hurt. I think, like you're saying, it's complicated, but I think that the Affordable Housing Task Force and then the board has considered some very important recommendations for how to preserve affordable housing, continue to enforce the housing code to make sure people are living in safe, healthy housing, but also to think about how we're going to fund the construction of more affordable housing, because it's becoming difficult to find an affordable place to live in New Haven. I think that the city can actually pass ordinances and to create policy that's going to preserve and build more affordable housing. I think that would, in the long term, put us on a really good path. But I think, like I addressed to Alder Marks, I think there is a question of emergency right now, and how we can prevent as many evictions as possible. So be assisting residents, financially, and by advocating to the state to put a moratorium on evictions. That's what I think I would advocate for on the commission, to, like you're saying, address those problems, because I think it is a really, really serious and urgent issue. And like you're saying, constituents in your ward are dealing with that. And I know that I've heard from residents in the neighborhood I live in New Hallville, that they're struggling with rent and eviction right now as well. And certainly, the cost of food and other expenses that really influence how a household is able to get by. So I think they're all interconnected, and related to jobs as well. So I think it's hard to think of this all as like an isolated problem. It's connected to a lot of what our city can be working on all at the same time. Following the board's legislative agenda.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, Vice Chair.
Okay. Alder Sabin, do you have questions for Mr. Elias Estabrook?
Yes, Madam Vice Chair.
Go right
Thank
ahead.
you, Elias. I was wondering if you could just talk about your analysis of why housing is becoming increasingly unaffordable in New Haven, and what you think the city should do about it.
Thanks, Alder Sabin. I think there's a number of factors. I think that just from my observations on the City Plan Commission and the majority of the new housing projects we're seeing, they seem to be motivated by some sort of real estate market research that is telling them there's a market to be building and renting apartments at much higher rents than is the average rent here. And I think I think that is part of what's driving unaffordability. And I think that's, that's having an effect on the market where other landlords are seeing the opportunity to charge higher rents and unfortunately not consider, all the residents at all income levels as potential renters, but rather focus in on, how can they get the most money? And that may be from people that don't yet live in our city or are more affluent or have the higher wage jobs in biotech and hospital and university positions. And I think that's having an influence on, what is being built in terms of preserving the affordability. I think that New Haven is a place that people want to move right now. And it's difficult to make, as a city government to be able to, in a real estate market that is really complicated, to make policies that can be effective, and helping people stay in the communities they want to continue to live in. So I think that we should consider measures like inclusionary zoning. I think we should, like other municipalities, consider from different types of revenue, related forms of revenue, creating an affordable housing fund, and that may be able to help us subsidize for people that are facing higher rents, their rent. So those are some ideas I have, but I look forward to, with the commission looking at the data of what's going on in New Haven. Because like you, I am noticing that, our median rent is going up. And we want to continue to make this a place where people of all incomes can live if this is the community they want to live in.
Thank you for that answer. There are a lot of recommendations in the Affordable Housing Task Force report that refer to changes to the zoning code, whether that's related to parking minimums or other aspects of, so the things that we require developers to do. And I was wondering if you have thoughts on some of those proposals that might make it cheaper potentially to build in New Haven to increase affordability.
Yeah, I would definitely consider some of those, changes to our zoning code to affect the cost to build for developers. I think that I don't think we should only implement those sort of those smaller measures, but in terms of like a more comprehensive change to our zoning and implementing some affordable housing ordinances, I think those could be really worthwhile decisions, because we know that, I think we're seeing that development in downtown and the nearby neighborhoods is going to continue. So, how can we actually integrate affordable apartments or affordable units into those developments? I think that's going to make a difference as well. So I would support some of those ideas. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair.
Alrighty. Is there anyone that I have missed that might have questions for Mr. Elias Estabrook?
Hello, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, I'm back on. Thank you.
Okay, cool. All right, I'll turn it back over to you.
You did a great job. Elias,
Thank
you. Thank you for your comments and your carefully executed statements. A lot of what you said are so true, and hoping that the Affordable Commission can get up to,
There's Jamie. Okay, perfect.
get up to the speed of which they can get a quorum so we can start actually working, and that's hopefully our goal. Thank you very much. And that's all we have for this evening. Thank you, Elias.
Thank you, Chair Santana.
Thank you. Jamie, are you on?
Yes, I am. Good evening.
Where's your pretty face, Jamie?
I actually wasn't notified of this meeting, so I'm driving at the moment.
I apologize.
But
They
I
were
am here.
supposed to have notified you. Will you be able to go on video, Jamie?
Sure. Let's give it a shot here.
You're up, well, oh, okay. I thought you were upside down, but you're not.
I don't know if you can see dark and rainy.
It's a little dark, but we can hear you. If you could come closer to the screen or maybe turn on a light if possible. So we can see you.
I don't think they heard you. I'm driving at the moment. I don't know
Okay.
if that was optimal, but I'm about to be where I'm trying to get to. So
Okay.
please bear with me. I appreciate it.
Jamie, can you give us your name and address for the record?
Yes, it is Jamie Myers McPhail, 135 Bellevue Road.
And where is that?
That is in the Beaver Hills neighborhood in Ward 28.
Thank you. I appreciate you coming on and speaking with us, and we will be asking you questions while you're driving.
Okay.
So I hope that you'll be able to answer. And I've known Jamie for a while now. He and I have worked on a couple of things together. And when he puts his mind to something, he goes all in. So I know that he will engage and be upfront about the questions and concerns that the community has, and helping the elders too as well understand what's going on in the Affordable Housing Commission. So thank you, Jamie. Vice Chair Yvette Hamilton, do you have anything? Unmute yourself. Unmute.
Okay, got it. Thank you, Chair Santana. Good evening, Jamie. Sorry that you're driving and you weren't notified in advance. You know,
Alder
you and I-
Hamilton.
how are you?
Good to see you.
You as well. I know that whatever you put your mind to, you're gonna give it your best shot. What do you think we need to do to get started on this Affordable Housing Commission that's gonna make a big difference in us just implementing some good strategies for this commission? What do you think? Where should we start?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you all for convening this because I feel like this is the start, and I know there's a lot of work that's gone into getting to this point, and a lot of people that have been advocating and that have been involved in the process up to this point, from the recommendations even before that, where there was the struggle around the loss of affordable housing, the loss of Church Street South, the loss of SROs at the Hotel Duncan, and so I feel like some of what got us
Shoot.
I think we lost
Froze
you.
for a second. Okay, hold on.
Are we frozen?
Yes.
Okay,
He's back.
we're
Okay.
back.
Continue, Jamie.
Oh, okay. That was what I had to say so far.
We're losing you a little.
Oh no.
Yeah, because we lost some of your speech there in your response.
Oh, I apologize. I was just saying, I think a lot of what has, created this opportunity and creating this commission, having residents speak out, people coming together who have been impacted by this crisis, and us going out to get them to be part of the process and be part of the solution is what's going to help us get out of this crisis. And I definitely am committed to doing my part in that, to making sure we're reaching out as widely as possible to folks who have been impacted and are being impacted to be part of, fixing this problem together. Uh-oh, can't hear.
I said, I know you'll give it your best shot. Thank you so much, Jamie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Santana. I'm finished.
Thank you, Alder Santana, as well. I appreciate your kind words.
Thank you. Alder Marks, do you have any questions for this evening?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. To Jamie, he is in my ward, and I know Jamie very well too. I just want to ask Jamie, what is his vision for this here board, and what makes him think that he will serve as a good candidate? Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Marks. My alder currently, I have lived in, I think, 5 neighborhoods of New Haven so far, and partially due to the increase in prices and the constant raising of rents, I have moved around frequently. I saw one of the places I lived when I first moved to New Haven over on Mansfield Street before the Yale colleges were built. I think it was one of the most affordable units on the street, and now it's actually doubled in price. I lived in the PMC building at 78 Olive Street, which my rent went up every single year. So I've definitely felt that, but I'm fortunate enough now to be a homeowner, which is something I never ever thought I would be able to accomplish. But I know that so many people are not in that position and actually are in a position where things are getting worse. And so I feel like, a lot of the organizing I do is with people who are being impacted both by the jobs crisis, the affordable housing crisis, and we have to come together to do something different here because we have so many resources in this city, so many resources in this state. This is one of the richest states and the richest country in the world. There is no reason we should have people homeless. There is no reason we should have people who are not adequately housed or who are living in substandard conditions. There's no reason that people should be so housing burdened that they're choosing between medicine and rent or healthcare and paying bills. There's no reason people shouldn't be able to be moving into a home that they feel comfortable and safe in, where they can raise their family. And I feel like between all the opportunities that exist and all the resources that exist, we have to actually put those things in different places. And part of what we've been talking about with the group I organize with is about changing the maps, which means there's been decades and decades of segregated development in our city, where we're seeing opportunities come into downtown. We're seeing gentrification happen. We're seeing all these luxury apartments come in, but there's not resources going into the communities that were redlined that actually need the resources to be able to rebuild and get on a different track. And so if we really focus our attention together and we can change those maps and we can have, good jobs, affordable housing, safe communities everywhere, it shouldn't be limited to, downtown and Yale campus.
Yep. Thank you for sharing all of that, Jamie. And thank you, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Marks. Alder Sabin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for being here, Jamie. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about what you think are some of the solutions to the rising rents that we're seeing in New Haven, and if you have any thoughts on any of the recommendations that were part of the final report from the Affordable Housing Task Force, including changes to the zoning code, inclusionary zoning, things like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I have recollection about that report talking about implementing the inclusionary zoning. I've heard that has been successful in other communities. Also, I know part of the recommendation dealt with both building of new units as well as trying to, stabilize some of the neighborhoods and some of the unit prices that we have. And, I think rent control is, something that we would have to actually change law to be able to do. But I'm hoping and believing there are things that we could do at a local level to try to get that under control. but I think we should be able to be building also new units, and hopefully with large developments that do come in, you know, those should include units that are not just, you know, area median income affordable, because we know that's not actually affordable, but affordable based on the neighborhood and based on the city, you know, income. So I think between all of those things, it would be very helpful.
Excellent. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Alder Clyburn.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Jamie, glad to hear that you will be on this commission, hopefully.
Oh, thank
And,
you so
you know, my things are our landlords in our city who causes headaches in our wards, different wards, especially my ward I'm talking about, because I know about mine. Something we could come up with to make these landlords have a standard. You know, they're getting their rents because definitely they're getting government money for the rents. But, you know, a plan that we could come up with, I really been thinking, what can we do to really hold these landlords responsible while they're in our neighborhoods, you know, getting this money and not really caring for the people. So that's my thing. So I know you always put your best foot forward in everything you do, because I've known you myself over the years. So, you know, your thought on that. You see how they devastate these communities.
Yes, yep, absolutely. Thank you, Alder Clyburn. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm a policy wonk or have some advanced degrees in planning or anything like that, but I have a lot of experience talking to a lot of people in the city and seeing directly the problems out there. And I know that, you know, I would work very hard to understand solutions and options before this community and before us, you know, at the city level and in the state level as well. But I think the main thing to me is the best solutions come from people impacted, and when the most amount of people are actually involved, you know, and we have representatives like yourselves that come from those communities and understand those impacts.
Can't hear you.
I don't think you're frozen. I think he may be. Jimmy, can you hear us?
Yes, I do. Did you hear me? Here.
Yeah, he's, are you all set, Alder Clyburn?
Yes, because we losing him and he's driving, so yes.
Yeah. Alder Hurt, do you have any questions for Jamie?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just want to make and I understand, thank you, Alder Clyburn, for recognizing that he is driving. And I don't want to prolong this, but we're dealing with a whole lot of gentrification within our city. And affordable housing, that has a lot to do with affordable housing. How do you see it as a member of this commission, to how do we conquer this?
Yeah, I feel like as a city, we made a big mistake, or we really lost an opportunity in the years when a lot of this development was being planned. Before a lot of the folks on this call were actually at the Board of Alders, and before the mayors that we've had, there were a lot of decisions made that really are impacting us right now that we didn't have any say in. And a lot of development that came in and promised, oh, this is going to create jobs and this will loosen the housing market, will actually drive down the prices. And we saw time and time again that's not been the case, and the way that things have been going is not working. And I felt like New Haven was positioned as if we had to beg to have people come to develop here, as if we weren't worthy of that, and we had to promote ourselves. But actually, New Haven is a place that a lot of people want to be and has a lot of talent and has a lot of potential. But we got to get on a track and, you know, we've been fighting to be on this track where it's a place that works for and benefits the people who are here and who are from here, so they can continue to stay here and not get pushed out. Because I know, I'm sure some of you and your families have moved to surrounding communities with the prices going up, and seeing people actually say, forget it, I'm going down south. Like, this isn't even, I can't find a good job and my rent went up. What am I supposed to do? You know, and that shouldn't be the case when we have so many amazing people, so many resources, and like so many opportunities, so many things coming in. This should benefit, you know, the people that live here. And so I feel like, you know, seeing some of the things like the 101 College Street gives me hope that there are ways that development could be a win-win for people if it actually gives back to the community and not just displaces the community or, you know, is at the expense of the community. Fine, if you want to bring investment here, if you want to bring development here, I'm not against that, but it should be done in a way that the residents have a say and that it actually benefits them. And then maybe as a side to that, I know they talked about having the land bank or the pool of money that, you know, could be used to build some affordable units, but I don't think that can be, you know, $10,000 here or there just as, you know, checking a box. We have to actually talk about getting to scale, because so many people are struggling with this issue right now. Is a very urgent crisis that we can't wait for 10, 20 years down the road to build 2 units. You know, we have to get to work now.
Thank you. I just want to say that, Madam Chair, and to the committee, that we would definitely benefit from having the person, Jamie, this individual, on our affordable housing.
Thank you, Alder Hurt. Is there any more questions from the committee? Is Alder Rodriguez on the phone? Okay, I don't see her. Seeing none, we'll move on to Rebecca Corbett. Thank you, Jamie, for joining us.
Thank you so much, Santana.
Talk to you soon. Is Rebecca Corbett on the line? Rebecca Corbett? Rebecca Corbett? Okay, seeing none, she is not on the line, and so I will entertain a motion to close. Is there anyone from the public that would like to I'm sorry. Was there anyone from the public that would like to give a recommendation to any of the appointments that we talked about this evening? Anyone from the public like to speak on behalf of any of the appointments that we spoke to this evening? Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on any of these individuals that we were speaking to this evening? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to close the public portion.
I'd make it a
Motion to
that we
close the
close.
public portion.
Jill, Alder Marks, you made the motion,
Yes, Madam President.
and who seconded?
Second.
Okay, Alder Hamilton, thank you. Discussion.
No discussion.
Alder Saban?
No
I'm
discussion.
gonna leave it to you to make the motions this evening, okay?
A motion to move items 4 and 5 for read and file.
Okay. Second?
I second.
All right, is moved in second. Discussion.
Are those Miss Lisa McKnight and Miss Zini Malik?
Yes.
Okay, so those folks we said were not able to
Voting
serve,
on
and
them.
we're
Yeah.
giving them leave to
Leave to
withdraw.
withdraw based on their conversation with the people who made the nomination. They don't live in the city any longer, and one can't serve. So We appreciate their acknowledgement. Thank you. So
Okay,
moved and seconded, all in favor of moving these two items 4 and 5 to leave to withdraw?
Alder Saber's trying to get your attention, Madam Chair.
I need to retract the motion to read and file and change it to a motion to leave to withdraw.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Motion accepted. Is seconded?
Second.
Seconded?
Second.
Okay. All in favor of moving item 4 and 5 as a leave to withdraw, say aye.
Aye.
There's no against. The motion carries. Thank you.
Okay.
Alder Saban.
I would like to make a motion to move item 1, item 3, and item 6.
Perfect.
Second.
That would be, that's second. Okay.
Yes,
All of those include Michael Lawler, Elias Estabrook, and Jamie McPhail Myers. And they all came before us this evening. So it was moved and seconded discussion on any of the members who were discussed this evening. Yes, Alder Hamilton.
Thank you, Chair Santana. We heard good things from Mr. Lawler. First of all, he's very prepared, well educated, as we hear, and is excited to serve on the commission. And I think we should definitely move.
Are we frozen again?
No, we just lost Alder Hamilton's audio.
Oh, Alder Hamilton, trying to get her attention. Alder Hamilton, we lost your audio. We couldn't hear you.
She's saying she can't hear you either.
Uh-oh. Try to reset your computer. We couldn't hear you. Misty, will you send her a would you send her a message, please?
Sure.
Okay, thank you, Misty. Misty will send you a message.
I don't know what's going on. I can't hear. I can hear you guys,
I
but
can
maybe
hear you now.
Oh, you can. Okay.
Now I can.
All
For
right.
some reason, you were dead. We couldn't hear a word you said.
I know. I apologize. My internet seems to be going in and out. I'm in approval of Mr. Lawler. As I said before, he's very educated. He's out there and he knows what's happening, and I think he would be an asset. With regards to Jamie Myers McPhail and Elias Estabrook, those folks are people that are working in our community daily, right? And I think they would be assets to the Affordable Housing Commission because they see and know exactly what the needs are in our communities, especially when it comes to affordable housing. They have experienced with me like places like 66 Norton Street. You know what I mean? So they are passionate, they're hardworking, and I recommend them highly to the Affordable Housing Commission. I think they would be an asset. And I won't take up all the time. I'll let somebody else, chime in. Thank you, Chair Santana.
Thank you. Anyone else on any further discussion?
Yes, can I say, I was.
Yes,
thank you,
Alder Mark.
President, thank you so much. Yes, I was definitely moved by Mike Lawler, his testimony about his serving on the police commissioner. I think definitely he will make a great fit for that office with giving in his testimony. And I was really encouraged when he was talking about the past, how he served under he was saying that Tony Walker
Mhm.
State Representative Tony Walker is a good friend. I can't think of the other name he said, but these are good people, you know. And I know he was up under them. He learned some good lessons, and the things that he said, I think he just have the right things that he want to put in place. And I approve of him. And I want to say for Jamie and for Elias, I want to just echo everything that or the event Hamilton just said about them. I mean, I'll just say two words: they have big hearts for the community. So I am definitely in favor for their serving as on that housing commissioner as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Yes, Alder Hurt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, I want to say I've been under your leadership in Aldermanic Affairs, and I haven't agreed with every person that's come to us, but tonight I am in agreement with all three individuals who were presented to us tonight. And I'm overjoyed and overwhelmed, and I look forward to working with all three of them. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Alder Hurt. Anyone else further discussion? Further
I think,
discussion? Yes, Alder Clyburn.
I just think we have some good people with these commissions. So I'm grateful for them tonight. So I agree.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I also agree with the candidates that were chosen this evening. I think each one is qualified in their respective commissions, and they will all be a great enhancement to the commissions as we move forward. And I would appreciate the fact that someday we can talk to Michael Lawler and Elias and Jamie and ask them how they think they've done on their commissions and see if they've made any improvements that as we move forward. And that is a welcome so that we can see that we've done the right direction and we've gone in the right direction so we can move forward. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is there any against?
Aye.
No. Anyone wishing to change their vote? No. The ayes have it, and so all of these candidates have been approved this evening. Michael Lawler, Elias Esterbrook, and Jamie McBill Myers. And we appreciate everyone's attendance this evening, the questions that you asked, and it made for a fruitful evening for the candidates as well that were asking the questions that they desperately want us to know about them. And if we don't ask the questions, we don't know what their abilities or capabilities can be. So thank you all for engaging, and I appreciate it. And if no further discussion, I would like to make a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Second that.
Second it?
Second.
And it's all in favor? Yes, Alder Hurt.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn.
Okay, and we already had a second from Yvette Hamilton. So
Yes.
we're all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, good night, everyone, and have a great evening.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alders.
Yep,
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
good
Make
night.
sure y'all watch the debate.
Yes, that's what I'm gonna watch now.
Gonna get up there, yeah. Hey.
Vamos llamar a Che. Ya no se ve bien.